Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're still on to the Polity, reaching you live from the Abuja studios of Kaftan Television. Here at Kaftan TV, we try to bring to you the next possible CEO of the country. There's nothing more important now than getting to know the ideas and the strategy and plans for the country that the next possible president of Nigeria might have for the country. I mean, he is the one who will decide how the next affairs for the next 4 years will turn out. Today now we've been joined in the studio by the YPP, the Young Progressive Party presidential candidate, Prince Malik Ado-Ibrahim, to speak on his plans for Nigeria, his manifesto, his campaign so far, and how he plans to make a difference come 2023. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, before we go into more detailed issues about your plan and your strategy for Nigeria, I'd like just a simple update. What is going on with your campaign? Has it started officially? Have you been to different states? What is going on that front?
Well, it's a long journey. INEC has extended this campaign period by an additional 2 months. And I think that most political parties are also aware of the financial spend that needs to go into such a campaign. And so for us, we've taken a policy of slowly, not a fire brigade approach. We've got from the beginning of the year to election day 55 days, and we're not even close to the end of the year yet. So we've started off with a flag off. We've been very careful not to overextend ourselves in the excitement of the moment. We're doing a lot more town hall events. We're speaking to professional groups. We're avoiding the rally scene. We cannot compete against the larger parties in what they do. We don't have the payment for a crowd as they do. So we're approaching this in a very modern, very distinctively different approach.
But do you have a campaign council?
We have a presidential campaign council. The announcement of that internally has already been made. Again, at our next rally, our next town hall meeting, we will be publishing all that.
Okay, so should we be looking up to getting a campaign rally from your party?
No, we're not doing the traditional campaign rally, rent a crowd and get on a stage and, dictate to people. I think that's for the old school politician. I think we are more interactive. We want people to question us about what we're doing, how we approach our positions that we've clearly stated out in our manifesto, be more interactive with the younger crowd. I think because we are able, the younger politicians that are in this race are more media savvy. We understand that we must educate ourselves well in what we do and be accountable and presentable to the public. And those are usually younger people that want to make that vote just because of the size of our population, nothing against the older generation. But yes, we have to approach it understanding who the electorate is and not make business as usual. We can't win with business as usual. The old parties have that down pat to a science, so we would be eluding
from what I'm gathering, you don't want to induce people, you want it to be organic.
Well, I think organic is difficult. We will induce those that want to hear our conversation. The advent of social media makes our reach a lot wider. Everything is made for media at the moment. And if you don't have the aptitude to be quick in your mind, well-versed in what you're doing, you can't sit there for 30 seconds trying to explain something and only 2 words come out of your mouth. The older guys are very good at doing that. We have to be on the spot. We have to be very knowledgeable. And I think that's what the modern, new Nigerian tribe needs to be. It needs to be on the spot. It needs to be represented. It needs to be worldly. It needs to understand the youth, and
is that why you went with the Young People's Party? Quote unquote, the young.
The progressives more. I'm not that young. But the progressive part more compared to a lot of the people that are in the two elderly parties. Those are for the elderly people that need either a broom to walk around or an umbrella because they're afraid to get burnt. We are looking at it completely different. I like the youthful part. I'm a small boy compared to most people, and they let me know that all the time. So I'll take that youthfulness as the Y in YPP. But it's a very progressive party. It has a mandate to go and present itself to the people and have. We're very versed in the ideas. When we first met, it was an understanding of how modern and progressive what I've been doing around the world is over the last 20 years. And I believe that young Nigerians will adapt to that and understand, and I can speak their language as well.
Okay.
It's just hoping that they're ready for this kind of change. I think most people are not convinced, and the vote apathy is strong. So the job of the newer parties and the newer politicians is to really get the young people engaged again in Nigeria, rather than to just leave it to chance for somebody else to.
All right, we'll get back to the young population and the plan for it. But let's start with what we know to be your, as it's called, your cardinal agenda on three main areas: the economy, power, and security.
Yes.
Let's start with security. We're starting to hear from even security experts that there's a new dimension of insecurity on the horizon. Normally, we see that a certain portion of the country gets the most of it, but now varying forms of insecurity, where some are caused by secessionists, some are caused by pure terror groups. We have some who want to make an industry of kidnapping. It's varied. Now we even have, for instance, the Owo attack in Ondo State was done by one of these terror groups who predominantly resides or has control in the northern part of Nigeria, but stretching all the way to the south for that attack.
Yes.
So basically, the issue here now is that insecurity as it is will possibly have gone another dimension by 2023 if you should take over. So what is your plan currently as it is to fight insecurity, and how do you plan for the changes that might occur between now and then?
I think quite clearly for me, I've been in this industry for almost a decade and a half. Nothing that I'm seeing is different from anywhere else in the world. It's located in Nigeria. That's the only geographical difference. But terror is terror. The players are, from Libya or the Middle East. They've come into our world with ISWAP or Al-Qaeda. We've got our own local terrorism networks. They're known. They're not invisible characters. Our biggest mistake to date, in my opinion, is we haven't adapted to the threat. We have been lackadaisical, a bit confident that the gun scares people. A guy running around with an AK-47 is enough to terrorize you as a criminal. But Nigerian criminals are different. The global terror scene is completely different. The asymmetrical warfare today, we're not fighting our neighbors, we're fighting the enemy within. So we need to pivot into a different kind of security architecture, which we have been very, very slow in doing, if not resident in doing. And that has been the cause. It's given a lot of oxygen in the realm of criminality to people, because I'll give you some basic examples. We're fighting people that don't have an air force. The federal government has an air force, but it doesn't use the air force to take the airways and to have that dominant security effect of being able to nail down your opponent. We don't have the aircraft. The ones that we do have are unserviceable, and those that we do have anyway in general, very few are security-based, or ISR as we call them, for intelligence gathering. So we're not gathering intel. We're not analyzing the intel that we do gather, and worst of all, we're not telling the public the dangers. And because of that, kind of terror that we get is more of a viral terror, the fear of something that's about to happen, because we're overstretched. So I think we, certainly from my point of view as a security expert in certain ways, I see the challenges completely different. I think we can get a grasp of them very quickly. I think we are poised to do so with the advent of a lot of technological aid, everything from eyes in the sky to eyes on the ground to human intelligence. and then also boots on the ground. And I think that we're very stretched. We have a very small military. We have an uncoordinated intel section in Nigeria. Our traditional rulers are not being used properly. Our state police, I think, is something we must do. And I think the federal police needs to also embrace this and use technology as a way of gathering information. They're all there. Everything, all the pieces I'm talking about are there.
So why do you think it's not being done?
It's not been done.
Well, you have inter-service rivalry. Air Force not talking to the Army, and DSS not talking to the NSA. We hear all this stuff is all around. We don't have that strong leadership that says you've got to do it, and the reporting mechanism is not there because there are egos that are abound. And I think that is what has hampered a lot of things over the last 7 years. We've heard of the Army calling in airstrikes and the Air Force bombing a completely different area. We have the Air Force that has ground troops, the Army not allowed to have an aviation sector. Yes, that is all changing now, but it's a little bit too late. This administration is leaving. But most of all, it's knowledge, understanding what needs to be done, having young leadership, and I think most especially for me is that if the man at the top, if your CEO, the commander-in-chief of this country knows what he needs, he can get that knowledge down to the people and get that action taken. If he's relying on his subordinates and say, okay, go and deal with that, and he goes and deals with it, but he doesn't tell you what he's going to do and you don't have a grasp of that, then it's very difficult. This is a modern age. The warfare we're indulging in now is very modern, very sophisticated at some level, but also very, I mean, people kidnap 300 people and move them to the bush. They're air assets that can take thermal imaging, that can let you see, even at night, 300 people gathered in a place in the bush and you know they shouldn't be there, and you can call in countermeasures. We don't have ISR aircraft that can, you know, we maybe have a few, but we certainly don't have the capability to use thermal imaging. These are the things that I know. These are the things that I'm happy to bring into the knowledge pool, even for the love of my country, whether you're the president or not. These are people like myself are not being asked the question. We go to somewhere else and they buy this equipment, and it comes here and it's useless. So the architecture needs to be changed, and you really need to know what you want. And in the security side, I think that we bring in, I certainly bring in a different kind of knowledge base, and it's tried and tested. I'm doing it in other countries around the world, and I'm convinced that if we can implement those plans, things will be done properly.
Yeah, well, I like that you mentioned strong leadership. So apart from strong leadership, don't you think two cannot work together except they agree? I feel, or do you feel, we do not have enough manpower right now?
See, manpower in the security sense, it typically means boots on the ground, men in uniform carrying guns and everything else. But there are two stages to this that I'm convinced that we need to get right first. The enemy has the same weaponry as our military. Everybody's carrying an AK-47. The herdsman, the kidnapper. Our military doesn't even have any superiority, doesn't have a better weapon, doesn't have a more engaging weapon, doesn't have distance, doesn't have the rules of engagement for them are slightly different. Our training is poor. We have 100,000 men in the Nigerian army. If I'm wrong, it's 10% plus or negative. Our full military force in Nigeria is circa less than 200,000 in all the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. In a country of over 200 million people, not enough boots on the ground. But so those are boots on the ground. Then you have the tech side of it, where I think a lot of young people can be employed into analytics, digitalization from the analog system we have, license plate recognition, using our satellite in space, CCTV cameras. You see many countries, you have a massive room with a dashboard, and you see traffic cameras that can zoom on your license plate, triangulate, visuals.
But how long would this take? You know, there's
technology is there. We have the satellite in space. We don't need.
I mean, the people who would man this, I believe they do not have the expertise.
The most uncommon issue is that, because I believe that there are a lot of very adept young Nigerian men and women that are tech savvy that can be employed into there's no opportunity for them. So you hear about Yahoo boys, you hear about crypto. Give them something that makes them feel part of this country, Make them feel the sense of patriotism. They're doing something for their country. And it's a question of education. They're educated in what to do. It's just giving them the tools to do it and the power to be able to feel that they're part of this great country.
All right, now, let's move over to another point now, the economy. Now, a lot of what you said, there's one question that I think people consistently have while you explain yourself is, where are you going to get the funds to do all of this? You know, there's an issue of incredible debt burden, debt profile that Nigeria has now. We saw the other day the former CBN governor, Lamido Sanusi, saying that any presidential candidate who says it is easy, don't vote for him. And he tried to put it in perspective how much of a dire situation we're in as we're headed into 2023. And I'm sure you're aware, President Buhari has already made the plans such that the fuel subsidy will end pretty much as he's leaving. And so that problem, if you should become the president, yes, it's automatically your issue.
Yes.
You know, how would you deal with this, especially given that Nigeria depends mostly on oil as it is, and generally the economy, you know, dollar, we had at the black market is about 788 now.
800.
800. It keeps fluctuating and so on and so forth. So these are the issues.
Yes.
Just before we started the program, someone complained about the price of a bag of rice being 40,000 naira now. So these things, how would you solve them?
Well, first of all, I commiserate with everybody in this country. We are at our wits' end trying to understand what exactly the methodology this government is about to use. We have a budget that is bloated beyond recognition. 70% of our national budget that has just been released is recurring expenditure and servicing 1 million people, which is the size of the government. 70% of a 20 trillion naira budget is spent on less than 1 million people. Just welfare, remunerations, and all their packages. The size of government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is bigger than it can afford. I think you need to cut the size of government and you know, cut our coats to fit our size. We're a big country, and we need to use that money for the people, not for the people in power. And by taking up, and I believe there's about 5 to 6 trillion naira worth of fat that needs to be gutted out of our budget. I don't see why we should have recurring expenditure. If you look at our budgets from last year, the same furniture that was bought for certain departments are the same ones that have been bought for the last 10 years.
So corruption is an issue here.
Corruption, lack of understanding of their duty, a way to create wealth within a system that is not being monitored by anybody. There is tremendous amount of fat, and I believe that we're just not tackling it. And I'll put the point to anybody in this country to say, we don't have an opposition party. They're one and the same. They're Siamese twins, two sides, or the same side of one coin. If you had a real country that had diverging political agendas, the PDP would be going after the APC. APC did go after PDP when it was in power. PDP didn't do anything. There's no engagement. There's nobody taking their feet to fire, calling that budget what it is, calling out theft, corruption. This administration came in saying corruption was going to be what it's going to tackle first. This is probably the most corrupt government we've ever had, as far as I'm concerned. We have $100 crude and we're borrowing money. Every other country in the world that's a crude producing country is making hay while the sun shines now. Our security architecture cannot find 1.2 million barrels of crude oil. NNPC is for sale. Our aviation sector is for sale. We're changing the currency, all on the exit door of 2023. It's horrible to see that in an administration where we had a lot of hope for. We're seeing ministers, the CBN governor, we're even having the Minister of Finance fighting the CBN governor about the currency change. We're having our airlines. What a horrible situation for us to be in, where a new airline that should not ever have been created is now going to be 51% led by a foreign country, which is also African, and it makes us believe that Nigerians are useless. Our currency is devalued, and now we're going to make it even worse by changing the currency on the way out during the election period. There are other measures to stop corruption at the ballot box. We take this very simple thing about CBN being able to give all the information about the world. They should be about monetary policy, and that's it. It's not there to police everything from anchor borrow programs to the exchange rate to, I mean, this has really been the worst I've seen in any country that I've worked in. And I just believe we got it wrong.
Just to cut in there, you know, I asked this question of a lot of not the major parties, the other parties like yours. Let's, you know, assume you do make it to the office.
Yes.
Don't you believe you are going to be surrounded by these people you describe? Take, for instance, the issue of oil theft. The rate or the scale, the sheer scale of oil theft has made many to say that it has to have government backing. You know, it's just not possible. It's just, you know, where regular thieves would steal 10% of something, we're seeing about 80% of that thing being taken.
Yes.
So when you do get into power, we can't say for sure how many of the House of Reps and Senate and all that would be with you. So how do you think you could make a difference in fighting these structures that have been there for years and have grown fat, as you said, on the wealth of Nigeria? I mean, they're just not going to sit by and let you change things.
Yes, I don't think that the legislature of this country is all involved in what's going on, and I don't think the government involved in what the theft is. I think there are people in government that are involved in the theft. The subsidy theft, the sale of NNPC. Why would you be selling NNPC on the way out? Why would you be selling a company that cannot find where its crude is, refineries don't work, it's declaring losses left, right, and center, and you want to take this to the public? For me, that just smacks of there's a theft about to happen, a grand wholesale theft of Nigeria's asset, and we're all watching it happening in slow motion and nobody's doing anything about it. A grand whole theft of our national aviation sector, nobody's saying anything about it. If you had an opposition, we would be approaching this. And this is why these younger parties with smart heads, very, very well-educated individuals should be voicing opinion either as one or separately, but we need to challenge the establishment, because the so-called big established party is part and parcel of the theft, of the corruption, and the wholesale sale of Nigeria's assets to themselves. Because there's no way we should be spending 18 billion naira a day on subsidies for 70 million liters of gasoline when we don't even have that amount of cars on the road. Somebody is stealing this, nobody's saying anything, and they're getting away with it on the exit of their 7-year tour of Nigeria.
Right. Before we move on, Mercy, just one quick thing. You've so perfectly broken down the problem. But really, what is the solution? What are you going to do?
Well, the solution is governance. The solution is having an administration that administers, not one that goes and takes from the people. The problems are blatant. They're all in front of us. We see them. We see the bad roads. We see the lack of electricity. We see the insecurity. There are those amongst us that have expertise in these sectors. We haven't put squares in squares. We had a lawyer as a super minister. Power, housing, roads. It delivered absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Our power is worse than it was. Our roads are impossible. Nobody's saying anything. Nobody's taking him to task. And this was a lawyer, former governor, that had, in my opinion, should never have been in that. And you can take every sector, very few. We have a pilot as a minister of aviation, not somebody who's an administrator. We need to understand that it's not who you know or what you think you are. Have you done it before? Because if a man who tells you he's done it before can do it, he probably can. But if somebody who's never done it before promises you he's going to do it, he's probably lying to you. So the job of the leader is to understand who he's putting, to delegate properly, to find the square that fits that square, and give the Nigerian people good governance back. It's not an immediate fix, but my policy is about resetting Nigeria. There's going to be pain, but there will be very, very clear results. And listen, for me, I'm going to lock people up. I don't believe that anyone should walk around this country feeling that they've raped this country and they got away with it. I believe also in financial restitution. If people are outside this country that have stolen and we can sit down and talk to them to bring that money back, I'll be doing that kind of stuff. But the party such as ours has never been in power. We have no allegiance to anybody. We must do the people's work. It's dangerous, yes, I understand, and it may not succeed because, of course, the political instruments that people can use to remove you are there. But if you understand what needs to be done and you understand how the presidency can work effectively, I promise the Nigerian electorate that they will get a country that they will be very proud of on a daily basis.
Now, I like the fact that you said you are going to lock people up and basically holding people accountable for what they're supposed to do. Okay, in one of your interviews, because I actually follow up on you, I'm quite a small, let's say little fan, you said lack of energy security are the top challenges facing Africa. Yeah. And I like the fact that you are also an expert in the power systems. And then given the number of times the national grid has gone down in Nigeria, of course we know that right now, what are your plans for Nigerian power sector?
You know, the African mentality is that if you're not hearing that engine noise, it's not generating power. We've had a tremendous opportunity in 2016 to have an energy mix of renewable energy come into this administration and into the Nigerian energy mix. 14 companies signed contracts to build power plants at 100 megawatts at the most to put energy into the mix on the national grid. That policy, although I didn't completely agree with it, I enjoyed the opportunity because I thought it would work and I thought this administration actually had the guts to push that button. But whether it's lack of knowledge or misunderstanding, or maybe they were just out of ideas and it was just a thing to do at the time, we didn't get it done. So my policy is a little bit different. The grid is what the grid is. We can try to embrace it and sort of re-engineer it to get more, but it's an old system. Modernity allows us to be able to embed power using renewables and the grid to shore up areas where industry are or villages, towns. You don't have to go to the old archaic system, the colonial system of using the grid anymore. There are so many examples of thousands of megawatts, gigawatts of renewable energy that are sustaining industry and people. We're living in the land of sun. We're in the continent where the sun comes no matter what happens. We run away from it. We're in air conditioning. We should be able to trap that energy and deliver it to our people for better life and also for industry, because that is what starves us of greatness. We're not having that tool to be able to generate power. And I believe that not knowing is the crime of the century here. Not allowing people like myself, and there are a lot of experts that understand renewables, to come in and help the government achieve those things. It's just, I'm a minister, so I know it all, and you bow to me, and that has to stop. And it's something we're very, very conscious of.
Yeah, a quick one before we go. Just in 5 or 30 seconds, would you tell Nigerians why you think they should vote you in and what you would do different from what the present administration is doing?
Well, the fact is I would do everything different. I don't believe that this administration is who I'm even going after. It's done its job. It's done the best it can. It keeps telling us it's done the best it can. Those that are coming are not going to treat us like cattle. I believe that the way I am as a person, what I've been taught, how I've been brought up, the kind of understanding and knowledge and expertise I have, gives Nigeria the best way to settle itself, focus on resettling our foundation as a country, and then building from that. And if a person has not done it before, don't expect them to do it. If they've never balanced a budget, don't expect them to come into the office and balance a budget. If they never built a power station, don't expect them to do that. Judge us based on our antecedents and our expertise, and those are the people that you should vote for in 2023.
Just finally, any comments on your chances? By virtue of the name of your party, Young, you would expect that the young population is already with you, or we have the Labour Party seeming or wanting to claim that right to the obedient movement and all that. Are you at all worried that the people who should be more focused on your mission are elsewhere?
Where it's a bit cultish, in my opinion. The system is the same. The Labour Party has come from the presidential candidates come from APGA to PDP to Labour Party. The people there in that party are from another party. It's just the same. It's a repackaged old tool. You put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. So as far as we're concerned, we need a paradigm shift. We need a new Nigeria. We need a new beginning. And I believe that Nigeria should give us a chance. We're seeing it in other countries, from the UK now with Rishi Sunak. We've seen it with Trump. We've seen it with Obama. We've seen it with Macron. The moment you pivot, there's a sense of hope. And we need to sell hope and not hopelessness to Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much, Prince Malik. Thanks for coming here and presenting yourself to the people and sharing your ideas. We hope to, see you sometime within the campaigns, further into the campaigns, for some updates and your thoughts. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Prince. Yeah.
All right, we've been speaking to Prince Malik Ado-Ibrahim. He's the YPP presidential candidate, and as you've heard, those are his plans for the country and his chances at the polls. Right now, we'll go for a short break. When we return, we'll be talking about debate culture and the proposed debate for December 10th. Stay with us. We'll be right back.